Welcome back to Viking Blood Week, and today, the original. Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and we're continuing with our Viking Blood Week. Today, we're going to be attempting a clone of Dansk Mjod's Viking Blood.
Dansk Mjod, Blod, something. Someone's going to tell me how badly we pronounce it, and I'm okay with that, because I speak English badly, so I'm sorry, I don't mean any offense. Now, I did call this the original, but really, it's not. This is a 17th century recipe, whereas the Viking Blood we make is a 13th century recipe, so technically ours is the original, but we're not going to go there. What we're doing today is we're going to make my version of a clone of this mead. Now, there's a couple things that I learned about this mead. I did some fairly extensive research a while back and found out some stuff about it, and I'm going to put all that in the video. So some of it, obviously, I'm not going to tell you now. You got to watch the whole video to find out. So some of it is right here. This is going to be a multiple parter, though, because today we're going to brew it, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do next. Okay?
I think there's actually 3 versions of this now. I'm
not Viking Blood. Dansk Mjod does make other products,
meads,
though.
okay.
Yeah, they make a couple of meads.
This is a Nordic honey wine with hibiscus and hops added.
Yes.
So this is not a cherry wine like our Viking Blood is. This is a hibiscus mead that's hopped.
Well, actually, they call it a honey wine. I'm going to go with that.
And there's reasons for that, which we'll get to later.
Anyway, first thing that we want to do is tell you what you're going to need to do this. First, you don't need this. We're actually done with that. You're going to need 3 pounds of honey, because I'm going to use 3 pounds of honey in a 1-gallon batch. I used 75 grams of hibiscus flowers, right, that I put into hot water. It was actually like boiling water. This makes tea. By the way, it's a lovely tea, and you can drink it as a tea itself. Probably don't need that much of a concentration, and you probably don't want to let it go for as long as this has been going, which is about 15 minutes at this point. I want to let this steep as long as possible. You will also need yeast. And today, I am using probably the most controversial yeast ever mentioned on CitySteading before, and that is Lalvin EC 1118. Okay, it's a champagne yeast. We all know it. Some of us love it. Some of us hate it. Not getting into that.
For some of us, the debate is still continuing.
Still going, yes. I am using it for this mead simply because it actually doesn't matter.
Why do you ask? Well, we'll get to that later. Again, there's lots of steps to this.
There are spoilers in this video, but I don't want to give them away. But anyway, so what I'm going to do, because this is only a 1-gallon batch, and my rule of thumb is if I'm making 3 gallons or less, I use half a packet. I'm going to use half a packet of yeast, and I'm just putting it into water. If you've ever seen us brew anything, ever, you've probably seen this before. And I apologize for the redundancy. And I may have used more than half a packet. It is okay. It's very, very, very hard to overpitch yeast. In fact, the only way I can imagine that you could overpitch yeast is if I filled the whole cup up with yeast and there wasn't enough water to actually let them swim around and start up. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. But somebody probably did it. So, nobody I know.
Continuing with redundancy, everything that you see here has been sanitized in the red bucket of sanitization.
Also known as TRBOS. Get it? All I'm going to do is swirl this around. This is called hydrating your yeast. Why do you do it? Well, we do it just to introduce it to some liquid, get things going. There's also the theory that if you drop dry yeast into a very sugary substance that they could go into shock and not work right. And there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of stuff. Basically, I like to know that they're a little bit alive first. That's it. That's all I do this for. Don't read too much into it. Keep it simple.
We're just waking them up.
Yeah, exactly. We are using 3 pounds of honey. And for those of you in the US, and I think Canada has it too, it's Costco honey. Never tried it before. We now have 2 3-pound containers of it because we went the other day and I said, let's just get some more. You know, because why not? It's just what I do. So, what we're going to do, start putting some honey into our fermenter. I am using a regular 1 gallon carboy with the narrow mouth. Derica asked before we started, don't you want a wide mouth for this because of the hibiscus? No, because you know what? I'm going to strain the hibiscus out. And here's why. I made a tea because that way it is a set strength. We know it will not get any more tea strength by fermenting. Okay? So the trick is you have to make the tea to the strength that you want. I'm making roughly half a gallon with 75 grams of tea, like I said. So this should be fairly strong, but not overpowering. But this is a hibiscus mead. Should be lots of hibiscus. It should be very hibiscus-y. Anyway, so we're going to put some honey in a jar.
As usual, we had our honey sitting in our warm sanitization liquid, so that way it could be more liquidous and pour more easily.
When we say warm, it's probably less than 120 degrees. That way it's not going to hurt the honey at all, but it lets it pour better. And this is going to be sloppy and messy. Now, I'm not measuring this with a scale because it says right here, 3 pounds, 1.36 kilograms. That is 48 ounces. That is by weight. That means I have exactly 3 pounds, just what I need. Glug, glug. That's from a movie too. Okay, so we have reached the point at which you could make this take all day, or you can make life easy on yourself. I choose to make life easy on myself, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do is just keep turning this until it doesn't drip, and then all that honey is still inside. Now there's honey in the funnel too, and that's okay. I'm going to take the funnel right off and stick it in there. At this point you're wondering, what the heck is he up to? All right, well, we all know that honey dissolves in hot liquid, right? Well, this is hot liquid, so I'm just going to pour a little bit of this in. I have the strainer there to catch any of the hibiscus. Look at that lovely red color that I am spilling all over the table. Just a little bit. I'll just set this on top of there for now. And we put our funnel back. Put on the lid. Shake the bejesus out of it. There is no more bejesus in there. And then pour it in. That's how you get all the honey out. Now I also put in a little bit of, oh wow, look at that. It's separating. It's so cool. Love that. I also put in a little bit of hot liquid into this jar, so now I can start thinning that honey even more. If I may have the stopper, please. I'll take the stopper, put it in the jug, and I'm going to start mixing this up. This does two things. It mixes it, actually it does three things. It mixes it, which you need. It also helps loosen up the honey a little bit so it'll mix better with the rest of the hot liquid. And it oxygenates. In the first part of a colony, as we always say, you want to add some oxygen into things. That helps the colony to grow, and after a couple of days, you don't want to add more oxygen because now it's going to start fermenting. But for the moment, that's going to go back in the sanitizer. Well, actually, no, it's not. She's probably just going to hold it. But what I got is all that honey is now nicely loosened up. I'm going to begin the process of straining it into here. But first, we need to fill this with more water. Okay, so I have almost, it's about three-fourths of a gallon of water, which should be about right here. And what I'm going to do is take a temperature reading, because now that I've lowered that temperature, I want to make sure that it's low enough for my yeast, because anything over 112 is dead yeast. Right now it's 123 degrees. That's a little warm. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start mixing it, and hopefully it'll cool down just in the moving around process. But there is there is hibiscus flowers in this pitcher. I don't want them in here, thus strainer. So I'm just going to pour this through, and I'm using a pitcher because I'm known for making messes. There's already drips all over the table. I don't want more. At this point, you have to make a decision. Do I want a little bit more product, or do I want to take a chance of this foam going up and through my airlock? I live dangerously. But not that dangerously. I do still have my yeast to pour in, so there's still more to go in here. For the moment though, I'm going to put this over here and drip on the table again. And let's just clean this off. Just throw that in the stuff. I can take a temperature reading on this again now, just to see, because I really don't want to put yeast in when it's too hot. We may have to let this sit for a little while before I do it, but we can mix it up. It's still reading about 118 degrees, which is just a little bit too warm for the yeast. So I'll just give it a good shake. It's a good workout for your arms.
So if you watch Brian, he keeps inverting it upside down and checking the bottom, and what he's looking for is to see if any honey has settled and is coating the bottom.
A little bit dip.
That is a telltale sign that your mixture isn't mixed thoroughly.
A really easy way to do it is just what I just did. You stop, let it sit for a minute, then invert. No honey. Now, even if not all of it is in there yet, it's actually okay because it'll step feed itself over time. This is an experiment that I'm going to do one of these days. I'm just going to pour honey in the bottom of a fermenter, carboy, or flagon, as somebody said in another group, and I was like, I'm using that word from now on. So this is now a flagon of mead. Got it? From now on, they're flagons.
All
I just
right.
love the word. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is just pour a bunch of honey in the bottom and fill it with water, not mix it, and see what happens. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to work perfectly, but I think it should actually work over time. It's going to take a long time to do. But that would be another video. For now, we're going to let this cool down. Okay, so what we did is we took this and put it in our sink, filled it with a little bit of water, let it cool down. It's down to about 105 degrees. It still feels slightly warm to the touch, but it's not so hot that it's going to kill the yeast. If anything, maybe give them a little jump start. I'm okay with that. Now, we're going to take a reading. Someone is going to say, because they always do.
Are you taking a reading or are you pitching in the yeast?
I'm going to pitch the yeast first. So first, I'm going to pitch the yeast. I'm just pouring it right in. Yeah, I got a little greedy. I know. We'll wait and see. I might need a blow-off tube for this one, but it's okay. Just put that over there. Now I'm going to take a reading. Someone is bound to say, oh, but it was warmer when you took the reading, then now you have to make adjustments and all that. Well, guess what? The difference is so minimal. I mean, like 35 degrees difference in temperature is like 1 point. I'm sorry. Me trying to read through a plastic tube and all that is probably less accurate. I don't worry about that. But, you know, technically they're right. There is probably some amount of difference, but it's a very, very small difference. And exact ABV isn't all that critical to me. I just really want to know, is it done? All right, so we filled our graduated cylinder. I used the turkey baster of calculation. And I'm going to drop in. Don't drop it in. Place it in gently. Because you drop it, it overflows, you make a mess. You know. And we get a reading of, it should be like 1.105 or thereabouts. Wow, our honey must be a little bit stronger, or it's slightly more concentrated than a gallon, because I got a 1.112 reading. Not too bad. 1.112, yeah. That's going to come out to somewhere in the 14 to 15% alcohol range, and because we used EC118, it's going to come out dry. And I am okay with that.
Because more things are going to happen to this brew after we get to that point.
Yeah, there's actually several steps to this. This is just the first, most basic step, is make a hibiscus mead. That's it. I'm just going to pour this right back in. Some people toss it. I'm not some people. And once we get that in there, all this stuff goes back into the sanitizer. We take our airlock. I said it in the first Viking Blood video. It's $2. They're actually like $1.29 at our local brew store, and I've seen them as much as like $3 online. And someone told me they pay like $12 for them in some countries. So I have to be careful saying that anymore. But in essence, they're not very expensive. They're a great insurance against getting stuff into your brew. So I'm sticking it in there. What you want to see, it already started doing it, although this is artificial. See how this side is lower than this side? What that is gas pushed down and through. It will all eventually go to this side and you'll see bubbles start coming out. That means it's working. If it goes the other way a little bit, that's because this is warmer than the ambient temperature, so as this cools, it'll create a little bit of a vacuum. The air will contract, pulling it back in. You want to keep an eye on that because you don't want it to suck that stuff back in. By the way, what's in there is sanitizer liquid. That amount, you could drink that. Won't hurt you. Put it in, you could drink it. It won't hurt you.
I wouldn't advise.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise it, but if that went into your brew, nothing's going to harm you. I also have been known to use cheap vodka and really cheap scotch, especially the one that I don't like. All those things are fine. Don't use caustic chemicals and things like that. Somebody said use rubbing alcohol. Don't use rubbing alcohol. If that ever got back in here, that is dangerous to you. It's really bad for you. I don't know in that concentration, but still, don't do it. It's just, why? Anyway, this is now done. It will sit for probably a month. This will take a little bit of time. It might be a little bit faster, and if it is, you'll see a video on it sooner. But in the second part, I'm going to give you just a little bit of a spoiler. We are going to back sweeten this, and we're going to dry hop it. Okay? And we'll show you that part of the video when that comes up, because I'm thinking this will be...
And the F word.
Shh. This will be like 4 parts, I think, because we're going to have this, we're going to have the racking and dry hopping and back sweetening. Oh no, it all happens at once.
Yeah. So
this is going to be 3, and then we'll have the tasting after that. So this is going to be a 3-part video. This is part 1. Stay tuned. We're going to keep these coming as fast as we can.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on CitySteading.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.